We're at Kepka's coffee shop, as you can see. I ran into a good friend of mine, Sylvia Wilson, and we're going to have coffee together this morning. And most people don't realize this, but Sylvia is probably one of the most powerful political people, as well as accomplished professional person, both in her capacity as as what chief executive, chief executive to the president of the school board.
Actually, I'm just a school board member. I'm
Okay,
a school board member.
Are you
one
still
of
chair?
nine. One of nine. I'm one of 9 board members in the city of Pittsburgh.
Are you chair of the executive committee still?
No.
No. ALCOSAN, but you're president of ALCOSAN.
I am the chair of ALCOSAN.
Chair of ALCOSAN. Sylvia Wilson is, and she's very modest, but I've learned a great deal about her, about education and about our kids and about keeping our kids safe, and I've always appreciated that. And thank you for joining us,
Sure.
joining me for coffee this morning.
Sure, it's not a problem at all. I enjoy getting a chance to talk to you. Sometimes you're so busy, I don't get a chance to speak with you.
Yeah, I know.
This is great.
And as executive president, as vice president, actually.
I'm the executive vice president of the Allegheny Fayette Labor Council.
Congratulations on all the construction that's going on in downtown.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
Yeah. It's
A lot
changing.
of work. A lot of
Everything's
work.
changing. Well, you know what's interesting too, because when Bob O'Connor got elected, he called and he said, look, we want to increase the population of our schools, and I know you've been concerned about decline in population.
Yes.
So he asked if we could impact downtown and bring a residential component to it, and I said, this is back in 2007, 2008.
Right.
And knock on wood, we were successful. And is that worked out? I mean,
I think most of the residential people who are residing downtown are more professionals or older folks,
So
not so much families. That's why a lot of the development around the city is so important, although some of the development is smaller, and again, they're attracting in younger people, not necessarily families. And you do know I've been concerned that the housing authorities have been closing down and sending people to the suburbs, and there are not the opportunities for families to come back. That's always been a concern of mine. But there's enough attention that I'm hoping that more affordable family housing will be developed, or redeveloped, remodeled, refurbished in some ways, that we will have more families able to be here.
So we accomplished part of that, I guess.
Yes,
I mean, we raised
yes.
the tax base.
Sure.
How's Pittsburgh Promise working out? Is that more
think
kids going to college?
I think there's certainly a lot more kids taking advantage of the Promise, and more children are able to go on to college than might not have been before. The Promise is also going a little bit beyond, because a lot of times it's historically, kids who will go the first year and then they have difficulties after the first year. They don't have the supports. So the Promise is actually reaching out to the graduates who are in their first year and second year, looking to see if they need help in any way.
Well, I know you and I have talked numerous times about school safety, safety of our children. And I've had the chance to get around Allegheny County, and I'm very proud of the chiefs of police because they're very progressive. And they're in every one of the school districts, and I know personally, I think we've impacted maybe 10 to 11 school districts. So we protect the perimeter with virtual security. I don't know how to protect the buildings. I mean, have you guys discussed, once somebody breaches a building, what do you do?
Well, in the city, even though there are some parents who are very upset, we do have security. We have metal detectors, I believe, in almost every school. It's not so much for the children, but also mostly for adults as they come in. In some of our schools, obviously the high schools, you have to be more careful. But even in the elementary schools, we've had an incident here or there. But in the elementary schools, it's basically for adults who are coming in. You want to protect the children. And metal detectors are something that are seen everywhere. Even Kennywood, you go through metal detectors now. Airports, obviously. So it's not something that's presenting a negative image, which some people want to harp on. It's actually, what can we do to be the bare minimum to try to make sure our children are safe. So you are correct. You have to be vigilant. Now, in Pittsburgh, I applaud the staff, teachers, custodians, any security guards we may have, any of them, because if someone is acting suspicious, it seems like almost every time somebody has noticed it and has prevented something serious from happening.
Well, use North Hills High School and McKeesport as an example. So the way we have, the discussions I've had with the administrators and the teachers, was you have to go through basically a choke point. And what they do is they take information about who's supposed to be on campus and who's not registered to be on campus. So kids and teachers and custodians and teachers, their license plates are picked up by technology. And if somebody comes on campus that's not in that database, then police or some security personnel will stop them and ask them, why are you here? And it's really helped. I think a couple occasions we've had custody issues where the mother or the father would come and pick up the child. You know how traumatic that is.
They weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to, yes.
Then everybody has to look around for them.
That's right, that's right.
So we get a lot of good information. If they get off the campus, you know, at least we have good information.
Well, that's pretty good. I don't think that I was aware of that. I think I was at one school district where I noticed that you didn't get beyond a certain point. And I said, wow, this is different. I know some parents were complaining about that because they wanted to be able to, but it's all part of the process for everybody. It's not against this parent or that parent. It's what they do for everyone. And it makes sense when you have, as you said, a bigger campus that you can do that. Whereas in the city, obviously, we don't have parking lots in areas because most of us park on the street, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah, logistically, it's problematic.
Yeah, so it's good to hear that because, and obviously in the county, it's very different, and that sounds really like a great idea, a plan that's been put in action.
I want to thank you too. While I'm thinking about it, I know when you turn over technology within your schools, that technology goes to other lesser fortunate persons, kids.
There are times when they do that. Yes.
Yeah, that's very nice of you. You know, it's appreciated because I just had an experience like that in the Mon Valley. There's a group that has convened to address primarily problems involving younger children and their families, and it was sad because they do not have access to the type of technology and to the type of people, quite frankly, that the city does. And but I wanted to thank you. You know,
we try to stay on top of it.
So what else about education? I mean, how's STEM doing? Are kids embracing that?
I think wherever we're able to infuse it in schools, there are obviously some schools that have more of an emphasis, but wherever it is, the kids eat it up. They can tell you, explain everything to you that they've learned and apply it, and that's the most important thing.
That's pretty cool. I saw, actually, some guy, a professor came in to see me. I think he was from West Virginia, and he had this gaming technology, and it's for younger kids, but they would build like build a submarine, or and then they had to make it faster, and then they had to make it lighter, and then they had to have more crew. It was pretty cool, you know. It's engineering and all that stuff.
It is, and the children do grab that and grasp it, and even at younger ages. And I know they're already introducing coding to children at younger ages as well, because then, quite frankly, as they move up, it's like brains. It's just where they can go is just you can't even imagine.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Before we sat down and started having a cup of coffee, we were talking about technology and the use of technologies. And, you know, the first thing I had to do when I came into office, Senator Bodak was in office at the time, and Senator Fuma was in office in Philadelphia at the time. And they gave me a $250,000 grant to upgrade the office. And it became something that was antiquated into something that it became modern and professional, and we've been changing ever since. So I think we share the same philosophy about that.
Well, yeah, it's important to upgrade your technology to make work easier, more convenient, and you don't have to go through backlogs. You can get your information faster, and it makes everybody's job better.
Well, the human element too, I think, is important because they're proud of where they're at and where they work, and you know, the tools.
And you feel good about where you work. You do a better job.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Well, let's is Vice President of the Labor Council. Are you satisfied with the way things are going? You know, in and around the Golden Triangle?
Well, I think, like I said, people are working. We see more opportunities. There's so much going on in the city of Pittsburgh, in Allegheny County. Just want to make sure that the opportunities for others is continued. We need to bring more people into the workforce. It's needed. We hear about the cracker plant all the time, but you have to have people trained. And I can also say I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a union organization through A. Philip Randolph Institute, the Pittsburgh chapter, we are actually training
When do you have time to do,
Well,
do those types of things?
I'm not the one who does the training, but we do have a program and we support the program, and it's out of the steelworkers. And we actually have classes for a year where they are being trained and they are actually going into decent jobs, not minimum wage jobs, but decent jobs. And they're being placed all around the county, the graduates of our programs.
That's great.
It is
That's
great.
great.
It is.
The cracker plant, it's going to do what exactly?
Well, the cracker plant is, besides doing all kinds of jobs, bringing in jobs and the development they're doing there. I'm not the best person to explain the cracker plant.
It's going to turn natural gas into a liquid?
There we go.
Yeah.
And but it's just the jobs that they're doing right now, just even in preparation for what has to be done. And every time they had like a job fair, trying to find who can, there like thousands of people come and apply, thousands of people. So obviously the need is there, and it's just something that's going to move our area into the future.
I understand that job site is run very well.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I have not visited there, but I've heard that.
Now we have several downtown in the Strip that we're concerned about because they're misclassifying workers. And there's insurance issues, and there's workman's compensation issues, and there's revenue issues, and it's unfair because people from Pittsburgh should have those jobs.
And you're talking about some of the non-union companies that are developing and are not union.
I don't know if they're non-union.
I think some of the people are
they're
using non-union labor, and so therefore they're able to work around some of the regulations that others would not do. I believe that might be what you're talking about, which is unfortunate because they're cutting corners, and that's what you're talking about.
And people, when somebody gets hurt and they don't have insurance,
that's exactly
correct.
And that's normally a non-union developer.
But when you misclassify a worker, you're treating them as not as an employee with benefits and insurance and that type of thing. You're not paying taxes to the city.
That's correct.
You're classifying them as an independent contractor. So you're kind of your own business, and that's probably not true in a lot of cases.
It is not. They're taking advantage. It's a new day, a new way to take advantage of workers while you pay them less. You don't take care of them in the long run. But you pocket the money yourself, and you keep going.
Yes.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's a scam. Well, the attorney, what's her name? Her and a deputy from the Attorney General's office were just in the other day, and they're likewise concerned about all this prosperity that we should be realizing, and all these jobs we should be realizing, and
the prosperity is the developers, not necessarily the workers.
Very well put, as usual. Very well put. Well, what else you want to talk about in terms of construction? Is there anything that concerns you, or?
Well, I thought we might want to talk a little bit about cyber security, because that's not only just for schools and education, it's also something that individuals have to worry about. Because, of course, we're getting more and more robocalls, more and more scams by phone, even on our cell phones now. It used to be just things they mailed out, but the cybercrime is getting to be a large issue.
Well, it's scary. I think about it in historical context. If somebody's going to rob somebody, historically, then they would have a gun or a weapon or whatever, and they would take your purse, and you're done. Today, with the tools cyber criminals have, they could take everything you have, and that's scary. That's some scary stuff. So. I had an interesting discussion with Dave Hickton about that, and I'm glad he's in the position he's in, because he's got access to those kids at Pitt, the University of Pittsburgh, and I think we're training a whole army of people to understand, what the implications are of cyber thieves
and ways to combat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, David Hickton is good. He's always been good.
Well, tell me about ALCOSAN.
Oh my God!
When I get my bill, I go crazy.
Well, but you shouldn't go crazy, because it isn't just necessarily what ALCOSAN charges.
I'm kidding you.
I know, but I'm just letting you know, because a lot of folks don't know. The ALCOSAN bill goes to the municipalities. The municipalities then charge what they decide to charge. many of them tack on different charges on top of that. So it looks like it's just ALCOSAN, but it's more than that.
We should make them identify what they're
Yes.
actually.
Well,
So
they should.
Who's going to put the sewer lines in the roads? Is that going to be the municipality, or is that going to be ALCOSAN?
We're working on a regionalization plan where ALCOSAN will eventually take over, but there's a responsibility by the municipalities as well. So it'll be a joint effort, but eventually everything will be turned over to ALCOSAN as much as possible, just to make sure that everything is fluid and works together as a whole system. But it's taking a long time, but we'll get there.
We're talking billions of dollars.
Oh, billions of dollars, billions. But I mean, the system's been in place since the early 50s. And so you think about how much has been changed. And everything so much of it was combined sewer systems. And now we're trying to separate that out. And it's a lot of work.
And it's really going to help our rivers.
It'll help our rivers, it will be cleaner. And it's just difficult work, but it has to be done.
Well, I mentioned this from the beginning. Your friends are very proud of you for your accomplishments, and not the least of which is, you're the person in charge of ALCOSAN right now. For good or bad, right?
Well, for good or bad. No, it's
like being
for good.
DA, you're in charge.
It's a good thing. It's difficult. It's a tough job, but the people at ALCOSAN under Orletta Williams' guidance, it's just an excellent facility. What they do, I've visited others, and I'll tell you, we have top notch here. People just don't. They just don't take advantage or understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're a super job there.
Well, thank you for having a cup of coffee with us.
Sure. Well, thank you so much.
Time flew.
Well, I know, but it's been great talking to you because it's really been a long time since we've been able to just sit down and chat.
Salute.